Welcome to this new package that is called the Planet Wars, in which you will be able to control different ships and conquer the universe. In addition, an artificial intelligence is also created, as you can see in this video, that is going to manage to try to get to the sun with their ships. So the aim of the game is moving your ships into the correct position by using strategy and fighting the enemy. So for example, now we are fighting each other inside the sun for the control of the sun. As you can see here on the top of the planet or of the star, it has a balance of the enemy ships and friendly ships that are fighting in the object. Whenever our friendly ships get to maximum, the planet will become friendly, and that is shown with a blue circle around it. If the enemy comes again and fights back and tries to destroy us, what is going to happen in just a few seconds, you will see how the circle around the sun is going to turn red. So it's under the enemy position. So this is all regarding the basics of the game. Another thing you can do is rotate your camera by dragging on an object. You can rotate it in the Z axis and in the Y axis, as you can see here in the video. And you can also move your camera along the space by dragging on the ground, as you can see here. So that's how the camera works. And if you click on a planet, you will have the option of sending the troops with this button here, and the troops will be sent into the fighting scene. And whenever the fighting occurs, as you can see, when ship dies, it instantiates an explosion effect. So that's all controlled by scripts, which we are going to explain really fast. So the main script that controls the movement of the camera is the camera movement and events. So let's just explain the main points of them, of the different functions that it has. So for example, for moving, we have the zoom effect here that is going to use the scroll wheel. And whenever we click on a sphere, this function here, select sphere, is going to be called. Whenever we click on the button, let me just show you what happens when I click here. When I click on the sphere, this function here is called, okay, select sphere, which triggers a lot of events. But when I click on the button for traveling here, that triggers the prepare to travel, okay, and sets the travel origin to this sphere here. And whenever I click in another sphere, as you can see here, what it's happening is that let me see. Okay, so when travel is true and we are selecting another sphere, we are setting a travel destination to the new Go transform, which is the new game object that we have clicked on. Okay, so that's how it works. So what generates the movement of the ships, as you can see here, is what is called a travel hole or wormhole. The wormhole is just a game object that has a collider, a box collider, in which is going to detect the ships that are rotating around the planet, and whenever they hit the collider, as you can see here, they are going to trigger a coroutine. So let's check how the travel hole works. So we have to go to this part here, which is the collider, the collision, okay, the collider events. So As you can see, what we are doing is starting a coroutine that is going to be the move ship called object ship script. Okay, it has two variables here, which are an object and a ship script. So if you go to this function, you will see what happens. What we're doing is calculating, obtaining the distance of the travel and comparing that to the final point distance, which means that this is the final point distance here, and this is the initial point in which the different ships start moving, and the travel distance is the point between this one and this one, this distance. So while this ship is moving towards this point and doesn't get to the end of the travel hole, the ship is going to move towards the objective. Okay, so that's how the travel hole works. So I'm going to repeat it really quickly. I select the planet, I choose the button of traveling, I hit on the destination, and a travel hole is created with a collider which collides with the different ships and then triggers a coroutine for each ship to move them from one point to another. Okay, so that's all regarding the traveling between one point to another. If we go to the script of the planet, you will see that the most important function is this one here at the bottom, that is the live ship manager. So what it does is it checks if the planet has enemy ships or friendly ships, and what it does is let me see, changes one ship, obtains the health of a ship, and then it modifies it accordingly to the power of the current enemy ships. That means that the function is going to be a quadratic function, and then it's multiplying by a random factor. So in fact, what we are doing is trying to create a way of generating a fighting between the enemy ships and our ships, which are the player ships, in which we prioritize that if there are more of our ships, the damage that we're going to cause to the enemy ships is bigger. Okay, so that is easily seen whenever we hit play, and if we send our troops to the sun and then we wait for the enemy to come, you will see how if the enemy ships are superior, if we have more enemy ships, we are going to lose the battle. So that is reflected, that's reflected on this equation here for the ship health and the ship health too. I think it's more or less explained. Then the scale distance is not used in this project, so I'm going to erase it. The self-destroy time is used for the different explosions when they are instantiated, they are destroyed over a time. So let's just wait for a fight, and we'll see how the explosions are created. Okay, so we have the explosion clone, for example, and then we have the self-destroy time. It has a duration of 1 second. So after a second, it's going to disappear. That's the idea of that script. Okay, so like that, what we are doing is reducing the amount of game objects on the scene, and we are going to be able to reduce the requirements of our PC for running the game. And the next script that is important is the ship script. which it's quite easy to understand because it uses spherical coordinates, as you can see here, to plot the different movement around the planet with different theta and phi values, which are going to be the angular values, and the r that is going to be the radius of the movement. So that is how the ship is rotating along around the planet. And finally, this simple artificial intelligence, what it does is check after a time if, as you can see here, the planet origin current enemy ships, which means the enemy ships on the planet that is being considered as the mothership of the enemy, has a number that is greater than the number of ships threshold, which is going to be like the limit that you are using in order to trigger this event. And then if the enemy ships that are in the current planet is greater to the ships of the player, the enemy is going to send their troops to that planet. Okay, so for example, let's check an example in this simple scene. So for example, let's consider the sun that has 0 player ships. Whenever the event is triggered on the enemy planet, the AI is going to send its troops because it has more ships, more enemy ships than player ships. Okay? So for example, if I try to counterattack this movement and I send my ships in order to fight them in the sun, and I wait for the end of the fight, you will see how the enemy is not going to send its troops until it has more enemies ships in their planet than in the sun. So for example, let's wait for a couple of seconds. As you can see now, the enemy has 25 ships on its planet, and whenever it gets to 30, as you can see here, it starts sending the troops to fight us in the sun. So of course, as they are sending more troops, the fight is going to be won by them, as you can see here. So that's the main idea of how things work. Maybe it finishes like no, it is going to win. Okay, so that's all regarding the simple scene. That is going to be like the basic stuff you need to know to make the game work. Then we have an advanced scene which changes slightly because it has more objects. So for example, in this game, what you can do is colonize the moon, and whenever you get to the moon is going also to create new ships. So you will have 2 planets in which ships are created over time. So you have the Earth, which creates 10 ships every 10 seconds, and you have also the moon that is creating ships over time. And the enemy here, it's a little bit more intelligent with its artificial intelligence, because we have created more objects in order to move their troops to. Okay, so now it's reinforcing as you can see here, the station with a lot of enemies, and also the asteroid field. So what we're going to do is try to fight them back. So as you can see here, we need some strategy. That's going to be sending our troops and try to stop them before it gets to the sun. And the fight goes well. on the asteroid field, as you can see, and the fight is going well in the sun. The only thing that is getting worse is the station, because it has a lot of enemies, and the enemy is sending also more reinforcements. So what we are going to do is send all of our troops to the sun, and from the sun we're going to send our troops to the station. Okay, so now we're sending all our forces into the station, and hopefully we'll try to win the battle there. Now we're going to try to send our forces to the asteroid field and to the sun in order to protect them from the enemy. So as you can see, it's a strategy game that has a lot of different variables, and it's going to be difficult to master. But that's the main point of this game. Okay, and as you can see, the enemy is still trying to recover the sun while we are still fighting in the station, and that takes a lot of time too. So you have to also to consider the time that takes the fighting events in order to win the battle properly. And the game, or the aim of the game, is to finally beat your opponent by colonizing every single planet on the, or every single star in the system. So to end this tutorial, let's just talk about the maximum performance of the game. In this example, what we are doing is creating a fight between 400 enemy ships and 400 player ships. So it's just an example of how performant the scripts are, that allows you to use and fight with a large army. And as you can see, it's quite fluent and efficient. So thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope you like this package. I hope you consider downloading it, and keep up checking our work and our new projects, because we try to update our latest projects as soon as we can. So thanks very much.